Well, a very, very warm welcome. Hi, my name is Cassim, and welcome to On the Topic of. And in today's topic, I wanted to talk to you about the importance of time in your life and why it is that so many people make the graveyard really wealthy by not understanding the importance of time in their own lives. I hope that something that I share with you today can help you in some way. I hope that something that I share with you today can help you become a higher, fuller expression of who you're capable of becoming. And I want to thank you so much for watching. So, I wrote down a number of things that I wanted to share with you today, and over the next hour, I'm going to share with you some of the notes that I have made on why it is that I believe that so many people do not understand the significance and the importance of time. For many, many, many years, I made a mistake. And the mistake that I made is that I believed that the goal of life, that as a man, my goal over the course of my life was to live for as long as possible. I believed that the goal of my life was to try and get to 80, 90, 100, 110 if I can possibly get there. And the goal of my life was to try and become as wealthy as possible, go on as many holidays as possible, eat as many Nando's as I could possibly eat, go and have as much sex as I can possibly have. And essentially, that is what I thought life was all about. But about 3 years ago, I discovered that I was wrong. And the reason why I discovered that I was wrong is because I started meeting and speaking to people who had accomplished all of those things. They had money, they had success, they had financial stability, they had great jobs, they had families, they had children, they were married. They were going on different holidays all throughout the year. They had so-called arrived. They had everything that me and you, a modern guy in the UK, would consider to be successful. And yet, they were unhappy. And yet, there was dysfunction in their life. And yet, they were hollow. And so, perhaps you might be asking the same question that I asked then, which is, what the hell's going on? How can you possibly have everything that almost everyone, I would say in the UK, if you look at their lives, is going after, and yet you're unhappy? What the hell is going on? And what I began to notice as I began to do research and as I began to speak to these individuals was that I discovered that these individuals were feeling unfulfilled. In other words, they felt as if they were hollow. They felt as if they were empty. They had achieved a goal, and yet they felt as if they hadn't achieved anything. So I wanted to know, what does that mean? What do you mean you feel unfulfilled? What do you mean you feel hollow? What do you mean that you don't feel like you've accomplished everything, even though in my eyes you've arrived, even though in my eyes you have got everything that for the last, I would say, 10 years of my life I have been trying to go for? What is it that is wrong with you? And that is essentially what I wanted to talk to you about today. And I wanted to share some ideas with you on in some way, and I hope in some way it can add some value to your life. I believe that every single one of you who's listening to me, I don't know who you are, who's listening to me, but I believe that you can agree with me when I say that we do not lack men in the world, right? We do not lack men particularly who are talented. I think you can agree with me and say that you know guys who genuinely are really good at maths, they're good with people, they're good at sales, they're good at communication, they're good at strategizing, they're really good at fishing, they're really good with cars, they're great engineers. I think you can agree with me and you can say you know people in your own life, or you've come across people who have areas of gifting and are talented individuals. They may not be the most successful people, they may not be the most competent people, but I think you can agree with me and say, actually, Cass, I do know people who are talented. I've identified people in my own life who are gifted. So my question to you is, if you know that, how many people in your life can you say that you know those individuals as people who are pursuing a purpose? How many of those individuals would you say, actually, Cassim, these individuals may not be wealthy, but they are fulfilled? Cassim, my friend is not necessarily have making the most amount of money, but my friend is in an area of gifting. What they're doing at the moment, in the area that they're gifted in the area that they're really talented in, they're making a difference. They're making an impact. It's not to like thousands of people, it's like three or four people, but those people's lives have been changed by my friend using their area of gifting to impact those people. Because I believe that the answer to that question is not very many, Cassim. And that's essentially what I found in my own life. I found so many people, my friends, family members, who were all very talented people, and yet they were not using their gifts. And yet many of them were pursuing and had great lives, but many of them felt hollow. But many of them didn't feel successful. And what I began to notice is that I always believed that the wealthiest place on this planet was, well, at first I actually thought that the wealthiest place on this planet was Iraq. And many of you will remember what happened, obviously, when we went to Afghanistan and tried to take over, and apparently there was oil over there, and, all the speculation that you've heard of. So I thought, clearly, this must be one of the wealthiest places on the planet. But I discovered I was wrong. Then I thought, I tell you what, I think that the wealthiest place on this planet must be the gold mines of South America. But then once again, I discovered I was wrong. Then I thought, you know what? I watched a movie called Blood Diamond, and I thought one of the wealthiest places on this planet must be the diamond mines of South Africa. But again, guys, I discovered that I was wrong. Let me tell you how I discovered that I was wrong. Last year, I was training to run the length of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and the UK. And every single day, I would run past what I now consider to be the wealthiest place on the planet. Every single day I'd run past it as I'm training, because I used to start running at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'd finish running at about 11 o'clock in the morning, right? And I would have to train to do 20, 30, 40 miles every single day in preparation to run that length of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and then the UK. And the place that I found was actually the wealthiest planet was a graveyard. Because every single day I ran past the graveyard, and I discovered that actually the graveyard is the wealthiest place on this planet. Primarily because in the graveyard, me and you, if we go there, we will find people who were problem solvers, who had ideas of starting a business, who had solutions to problems, and they never actually started them. In the graveyard, we will find people who had books that they never wrote. In the graveyard, you find people who were really good with people, but they spent their entire life never actually using that area of their life to impact anyone's life. So here's what I've discovered. I've discovered that when you feel unfulfilled, when you feel like you're empty in your life, even though you should have everything that ideally everybody should have, is because I discovered you're not working and operating within the area of your gifting. I want to share with you something that I discovered. I've discovered that everything on the planet is connected. Now, I know you may be saying, well, what do you mean? Of course we're not connected. Well, I discovered that we are. You see, when I look around at the world, and again, you tell me if I'm wrong here, I've begun to notice that the fish need the water, the trees need the sunshine, human beings need the oxygen. Everything on the planet in one way or another seems to be connected. Everything on the planet in one way or another is bound and is binded by something else. Everything on the planet has a function, it has a role, it has a purpose, it has a reason for being, because that's what essentially a purpose is. A purpose means a reason for being. And when I look around at the world and I realize that everything is connected and everything has a function and everything has a reason for being, I've concluded that we must have a reason for being. Because if everything in the universe and everything on planet Earth, as far as I can see, somehow seems to have some role to play, like the flower it needs to grow in order for the bee to get the pollen, right? If you believe that statement, then that also means that you understand that you also have a purpose, that you also are significant, and you are. And, guys, as I've been writing in my latest book, many of us have been brought up in a world where we have been told that we are insignificant. Many of us have come up and have been brought up in a world where the world has told us we're nothing. Our parents have not told us that we're special. Our parents have not told us that we're destined for greatness. Our parents have not pushed us and encouraged us to reach our highest versions of ourselves, because in a way, why would they? It's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine as to why it is that so many people, because my friend was asking me why it is that so many people don't ever reach their potential, why so many people don't ever unlock what I call the raw in my book. And one of the things that I talk about in that and explain to my friend was that you've got to remember that most people have been brought up by parents who are unconscious. Most people have been brought up by parents who are functioning in areas that are not of their gifting. Most people have been brought up by parents who are not doing what they love. And imagine growing up your entire life with parents who are constantly complaining about their job, who are constantly waiting and living for the weekend, where your parents, the only reprieve, the only relief that they have in their life is when they can go on the 2 weeks holiday off to Mallorca, off to Spain, off to Greece. That is the only reprieve that they have in their life, and the rest of the year is substitute to them suffering. Imagine growing up in a world like that. That is your model. And so when most people look at their world and most people start thinking about what they should go after, and they start thinking about what their potential is, and they start thinking about what their model is for what they can become or achieve in life, most people do not aim much higher than the place where they've been brought up by the model who they've had, which usually are the parents who are or the guardians who brought us up. I want to challenge you this year to really question who you've been brought up around. I really want to challenge you to question what you are capable of, because inside of you is a purpose. Inside of you is greatness. Inside of you is talent. Now, obviously, I understand that I may be the only person who's ever told you this, and I have got to basically battle television, Instagram, your parents, school. I have got to battle all of those different sources, and I have to get you to believe me. And the reality is, as I've just been writing in my book, that, look, there is something. I read a really interesting book by a man called Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Talking to Strangers. And in that book, Malcolm Gladwell shared a concept called the default of truth. And what the default of truth series essentially says is that you will believe whatever it is that you're told, as long as it comes from somebody you know or from a source that's credible. And what this essentially it was depicting, and the illustration that he was trying to make, is that sincerity is not a test of truth. I'm going to repeat that statement because a lot of you did not just understand what I've just said. Sincerity is not a test of truth. In other words, when somebody is genuine and somebody wants the best for you, it doesn't mean that they're right, because there is possible for somebody to be sincerely wrong. And I think that so many times in life, many of us, as I say, we've been brought up in a world and we've been brought up by people who cannot take us any higher than where they've been. You guys have to understand that if your parents have never done meditation and your parents have never started a business and your parents have never gone and traveled across the globe, it is going to be very difficult for you to take you somewhere where they've been. They've never been themselves. People can only take you as far as they have been themselves. Otherwise, what they can do is they can recommend to you and they can kind of say, oh, you could go down this path, but they cannot sell you on it. And many people I've come to understand, many of you who are listening to me, you're gifted. You are important. You are significant. You're special. There is something about you that is unique. But you've been brought up around people who've never identified that they're unique. People who've never identified that they're special. So they can never say that to you, because how can they take you somewhere where they themselves have never been? And so I want to talk a little bit about why it is that I've been telling you all of this and why it's really important for you to understand that you're special. You see, I've come to understand that one of the main reasons why so many people never reach their potential, why they never realize the greatness that they have inside of them, is because most people do not understand that they have a limited time on this planet. And that statement may sound nonchalant, but it's really important. You see, until you understand that you're going to die, you're going to be under the illusion that you'll still have forever. My God, this stuff I'm telling you is too good. I'm going to repeat what I've just said because it's so important. Until you accept that you are going to die, you're still going to live under the illusion that you have forever to live. And so let me share something with you. I believe that there are two powers in life. And these two powers bind every human being on this planet. It doesn't matter whether you come from Africa. It doesn't matter whether you're white, you're black, you're gay, you're straight. It doesn't matter whether you like heavy metal or whether you like R&B. It doesn't matter whether you like KFC or you like Domino's. It doesn't matter whether you're somebody who likes to watch Breaking Bad or you're somebody who likes to watch Glee. It really doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're 100 or you are 2 years of age. Every single human being on this planet is bound by two powers. Those two powers are time and change. Every single human being is going to be constantly hit by time and change. Let me talk a little bit about them. So the first thing that I want to say is nobody can stop these two powers. No one on planet Earth can stop time. If you can find somebody on this planet who can stop time, I would be very interested in talking to them, because I'll tell you what, that individual will become a millionaire. In fact, they will become a billionaire. In fact, they will probably become a trillionaire if you can find that individual who can stop, speed up, or in any way manipulate time or control, or in some way control it. Nobody can either control change. Now, I want to differentiate because many of us confuse growth with change. Change will happen naturally whether you like it or not. Your hair will do whatever it is that it was going to do. Your breast will sag naturally as it will. Your balls will drop naturally as they will. Now, there is something that I want to add, which I think is really important, because I can already hear you saying, well, Cassim, that's bullshit because you can get a hair transplant. Yes, you can, but that is not, controlling change. Change has already taken place. What you're doing is managing it, which brings me to the other point that I wanted to share with you. Nobody can control or manipulate time or change. However, we can manage time and change. So let me give you a statement which I wrote down as I was preparing for today's talk. Your life or your results will be a product of how you use and manage the time and change. My God, this is too good. Let me repeat what I've just said. Your life or your results in your life will be the product of how you use and manage the time and change that happens to you. So that means we know that every single person has 24 hours in a day. Oprah has 24 hours in a day. Usain Bolt has 24 hours in a day. Uh, Jeff Bezos has 24 hours in a day. Zuckerberg has 24 hours in a day. Every single person on this planet has 24 hours every single day. Nobody has more or less. Everybody has the same amount. Here's what I discovered. Some people manage their time very, very differently to the way that you and I use our time. And I discovered that if you manage your time differently, you will get different results. My God, this is too good. Here's another thing. I discovered that change is going to happen to every single person. You know, we know that politics are going to change, the weather is going to change, we know that we're going to have ups, we're going to have downs, the economy is going to change, we know that the interest rates are going to change. All of us know that at some point we're going to go through a crisis, right? A crisis is something that happens which nobody can control, right? And change is a crisis because nobody can control change. We can manage it, but we can't control it. And so I discovered that some people, when they go through change, they actually resist it. I discovered some people, when changes, for example, let me give you a perfect example of this. I know a lot of guys who one of the natural changes that's happening to them is that they're losing their hair, and they are in what is called in psychology denial. They think that they believe they don't remember that denial is a river in Africa. And so they constantly deny, or I know people whose hair is going white, and these individuals try to resist the change of their hair by dyeing their hair. See, that's not controlling it. That is not managing the change. That is resisting it. And so what I have discovered is that your ability to manage change in your life will determine the outcome of your life. For example, I discovered that some people who had businesses when COVID-19 was happening reacted very quickly and adapted their businesses to fit what was happening. Some companies took a long time to make the changes and the necessary adapt the necessary changes and the necessary regulations, and as a result we're 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks behind where they needed to be. In fact, many of you have heard on the news that many countries around the world are unsafe primarily because when COVID-19 happened, many of them did not react to the change that took place in the world quickly enough. They didn't manage that change that happened in their country because of COVID-19 quickly enough. And so what I want to share with you is, ask yourself how good you are at managing change. Ask yourself how good you are at managing your time, because the better you become at managing your time and the better you become at managing the changes that are going to happen in your life, the more productive that you're going to be in your life, and the results in your life are going to be far much more fruitful. Here's another thing that I wrote down. I wrote down as I was preparing for today that the key to your better future is the successful management of your time and change. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is that time is actually a gift. Now, many people don't actually realize that having time is actually a gift, because I love what Dr. Miles Monroe once said. Dr. Miles Monroe once said that time is an interruption in eternity. What Dr. Miles Monroe meant is that if we did not have time, if time didn't exist, we'd live in eternity. Eternity goes on forever. So, for example, many people say, well, Cassim, life is so unfair. Some people die at age 5, some people only live for 6 months and they die. Cassim, it's not right that some animals can live up to 100, 1,000 years, 200 years, 400 years, and as human beings, we only get to live for maybe 70 or 80 or 90 years. It's just not fair. But I want you to consider what the alternative would be. Because if we didn't have time, if our time didn't run out, we would live in eternity. Imagine having a headache in eternity. That headache would last forever. Imagine some of you who are listening to me, you have insomnia. You cannot sleep. You don't know how to have a good night's sleep. Imagine having that for an eternity. Some of you who are listening to me, you've recently broken up with a girl, and that girl was a fucking nightmare. She was crazy, she was mad, she was insane, she was stressing you out. Imagine having and being in that relationship with that girl for eternity. Right? Some of you are already stressing out at just even the thought of me saying that to you. And so I think it's really important to understand that your time that you've been given on this planet is actually a gift. Now, I want you to know the first thing which I wrote down about time, which is no one knows how long we're going to live. You don't know how long you're going to live. I don't know how long I'm going to live. We can speculate. We can look back at the past and say, well, my mum lived for kind of about 80 years, and her mum, my grandparents lived for about 70 years, and the grandparents before that lived to about 90. We can speculate and kind of give an average or an estimate, but all of us know that some people, to quote Michael Jackson, were gone too soon. Which leads me to the second thing that I wanted to say. Your time could be a lot shorter than what you think it is. Earlier on, I shared with you that the goal of life is not to live a long time, but the goal of life is to die empty. The goal of life is to finish. To finish whatever it is that you came here to do. To finish whatever it is that you have inside of you. And it is really important to understand that the time that you've been given is a gift, and to understand that you're going to have to manage that time, because as many of you have seen on the news recently from the Chadwick Boseman, the guy who played in the Black Panther movies, that some people's life and time is shorter than others, which kind of leads me to what I actually wanted to talk about next, which is that we all have different amounts of time. And I think sometimes many of us are under the illusion that we're going to live until 80. Look around at the world. Look around at the people who've passed away at 30, at 20, at 40, at 50. You don't know that you're going to be here at 80. Now, that's I'm not saying that for you to get depressed and say, well, Cassim, well, am I going to die in the next 2 years? Of course, that doesn't mean that. But what I'm saying to you is, it's important for you to be grateful for the time that you have and learn to really focus and hone in on whatever it is that you were put here to do. Because you may not have 80 years to do whatever it is that you're going to do. You may not have, listen, you may go on loads of holidays, be married, have loads of kids, have great friends. But if your gift was like Michael Jackson, which was to produce the Thriller album, if you die without producing the Thriller album, you are what I call a generational thief. Well, what's a generational thief, Cassim? A generational thief is somebody who knows that they have something deep down inside of them that's special, who knows that there is something deep down inside of them that is unique, and that they see the world in a certain way, and they know that they've never really fitted into a certain way. They're a maverick. They have a greatness inside of them, but they refuse to unlock that. They refuse to reveal it. They refuse to follow that instinct, that dream, that kind of raw, as I call it in my book. They refuse to accept it. They refuse to go after it. And that is selfish because, and this is the example that I use because it's so potent. Can you imagine if Michael Jackson made the Thriller album and said, I don't want to show it to the world. I'm sorry, but I don't want people to hear Thriller. Imagine Michael Jackson made all the different songs and all the different albums that he made in his lifetime, and he decided and said, you know what? I don't want people to hear them. I don't want people to hear Man in the Mirror. I don't want people to hear Heal the World. I just don't want it. I don't want people to hear it. I'm scared. I don't like it. I'm shy. What if people don't like it? Many of you who are listening to me today, that is exactly you. You are a mirror of who I've just described. You complain that your upbringing is tough. You complain that you've got arthritis. You complain that nobody will like it. You complain that you're too shy. You complain that you don't have the resources. You complain that you don't have the help. You complain that you don't have the confidence. Yet every single thing that you are complaining about, you can acquire. Every single thing that you say you're lacking, all you need to do is become resourceful and you can get it. You may not have the money to start your business, but guess what? If you become resourceful, if you're passionate enough, if you share your idea with enough people, if you position yourself in the right place, if you start coming up with the menus, coming up with the idea, going and talking to people who are specialists in that area, doing your research, doing all that you can with the idea, guess what? I found that you will find the money. If you can start speaking to people in your life who are gifted in that area, individuals who can help you, individuals who are experts in the area that you lack, guess what I've discovered? You can all of a sudden begin to step into that greatness. You can all of a sudden begin to step into who you're capable of becoming. And I believe that so many people, so many of us who are listening to me don't ever become resourceful in our lives. We don't ever actually really listen to that roar, listen to that engine inside of us that is kind of going off, and we spend our lives diminishing it. We spend our lives in the shadows. I challenge you in the next decade to let us see who you are. Don't be a generational thief. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is regarding time. Is that I believe something that I realize many people don't believe, which is that every single person who's listening to me right now was meant to be a leader, not a follower. Now, I already can hear you listening to me, and your response to that is, Cassim, that's a stupid comment. How can everybody be a leader? Well, if I've just told you that every single person on this planet was meant to be a leader and you disagree with that, that tells me something. That tells me that the world has done an incredible job in convincing you that you are nothing. They've actually done an incredible job in convincing you that you should be a follower. Because in your head, you can't even imagine how somebody can be a leader. How everybody can be a leader. You can't see it. You're like, Cassim, how can everybody be a leader? There has to be a follower. This concept that in order to have leaders, you must have followers is a Greek concept. It actually comes from Greek, right? The Greeks believed in gods. They believed that some people had to have certain powers. In fact, let me take this further. If you believe that not everybody was supposed to be a leader, that basically, without you realizing, basically means that you believe that some people's lives and time is more significant than your own time. You believe that some people have much more importance than you do. That means that you believe that some individuals on this planet have higher status than you do. Let me share with you what my philosophy is. My philosophy is that every single human being on this planet is equal in the eyes of God. Everyone. But we all have different capacities. right? Like, for example, I use the example of Usain Bolt when I say that, look, I can train for years and try to be the best runner and have the best trainers and spend thousands of pounds on the best trainers and whatever, but I will never be as fast as Usain Bolt. That doesn't mean that Usain Bolt is better than me or his life is of more value than mine. It just means that he has more capacity in an area of life than I do, right? And I will have certain giftings and capacity in a different area than he does. And I think that it's really important to realize that. So let me tell you what I actually believe, why I believe that everybody is a leader. You see, I believe that everybody is a leader not over other human beings, but in an area of gifting. Every single person on this planet, in my opinion, and from my belief system, is meant to be a leader, is meant to occupy, is meant to be an entrepreneur in an area of life. And that area is in an area of their gifting. And when you believe that you have a gifting, when you believe that there is something different and special and unique about you, you will realize that nobody else on this planet can do whatever it is in the same way that you do. You know, I was always fascinated by people like Michael Jackson and Prince and Bono and people like Jason Derulo, because I couldn't understand how this, because at the beginning I struggled with this because I was like, hold on a minute, how can Michael Jackson and Bruno Mars, they all have the same gift, they're basically singers and dancers, so I thought people are supposed to be unique, so how can they be unique? Here's what I've discovered: every single one of us has different upbringings. We see the world in a certain way. We experience different things. And because of that, that molds us and that shapes us into who we become. And that is what makes us special. So, for example, some of you who are listening to me, you have gone through incredible adversity. Your life has been difficult. Your life has been hard. You've suffered in your life. Your life has not been easy. You've taken the dirt road to get to the point where you're listening to me today. There are people in your life who've had it so easy, they've had it so like a walk in the park, and it's not even right. It's unfair that they've had it so easy. And you've had it difficult, and you've struggled, and you've suffered, and everything has just been difficult and hard in your life. But you've become stronger. But you see the world in a certain way. When other people want to quit, you're like, oh, come on, man, don't quit. You can do this. Your adversity has actually given you some unique things that other people do not possess. Here's what I share with people that I found to be interesting. If you do not believe that you're unique, let me ask you this question. If I took everything that you have been through, all the pain, all the suffering, all the betrayals, and I gave them to one of your close friends who you know, do you think that they would still be as positive as you? Do you think that they would not be whining, complaining, bitching, that they would not be in a mental hospital if they went through the same things that you've been through? I believe that your answer to that question is actually, Cass, mate, they wouldn't have even made it to 20, right? Because your life has been so difficult, and only you could have been able to handle what you've been through. So it's important for you to understand that every single one of us has and is meant to be a leader and has an area of gifting to which we're supposed to be the entrepreneur, to which we're supposed to be the owners. Here's another thing that I wanted to mention to you. I think that every single one of us can agree when I say that life is not a game. Your life is not a game. Your life is a very serious thing. And if you agree with me that your life is not a game, then you shouldn't play with your life. Here's what I'm going to say. Because many of you who are listening to me do not understand the value of the time that you have on this planet, you've been playing games with your life. You've been allowing people to betray you. You've been allowing people to cheat on you. You've been allowing people to step all over you, to manipulate you. You've been allowing people to abuse you. Do you know why? Because you don't understand the value of the time that you have on this planet. Let me put this another way. If I told you that you had 6 months to live, would you allow people to waste your time in the same way as you're doing right now? Because I believe that the answer to that question is no. Cassim, I would not allow people to talk to me like that. In fact, I'd probably quit my job. I'd go and tell my job that my boss, he's a dickhead and how can he treat me like that? Yet many of you, because you do not understand the significance of your life, you're allowing people to still treat you like shit. You're allowing yourself to get into relationships where in those relationships you're constantly undervalued. You're constantly being left by the sidelines, being abandoned. You're not respected in those relationships. Right? You feel used. You feel as if you're like a freaking, what do you call them? Them Dettol wipes. You've been taken out of the packet, you've been wiped on the surfaces, and then you've just been dumped. Yeah, you've been used and you kind of served a purpose, but you're empty now. And so what I would encourage you to do is when you understand the value of the time that you have on this planet and the fact that it's a gifting and the fact that your life is a gift, you all of a sudden will not allow people to step on you and cheat on you and abuse you and be able to just treat you however it is that they wish. The other statement that I wrote down in preparation for today is that I wrote down that how long you live is not an indication of the fulfillment of your purpose. I researched the man who lived the longest on this planet. It was a man called Bob Waiton. Bob Waiton actually died, passed away, I think it was a month ago, 2 months ago. And this man lived to 112 years of age and 1 day. Here's my question. Have you ever heard of him? Do you know what he did in his life? Do you know what impact he made with his life? The reason why I'm saying that to you is because history does not remember you for how much money you made. In fact, people do not remember you for how much money you made or how many holidays you went on or how much money you made or how many promotions you had. History does not remember you for any of those things. Let me remember you what history remembers you for. History remembers you for what you overcame and what you left. Michael Jackson is dead, yet people are still listening to his goddamn albums. Today, in fact, before I went for my run, I was listening to Man in the Mirror. Do you know why? I've discovered something. My God, I'm going to give you something so good here. You're gonna love me for this. I've discovered something that has been a shock to me. Let me give you what I've discovered. I discovered that the world doesn't actually care about you. It's horrible for me to say that to you, isn't it? It's quite horrible. I've discovered that the world doesn't care about you, they care about what you have inside of you. Let me put it like this. People loved Michael Jackson, but people loved Michael Jackson's music more than they loved Michael Jackson. Let me put this another way. People thought that Michael Jackson was a child molester, and yet they listened to Michael Jackson's music. My God, this is too good. When you understand the value of your time, you will understand that it really doesn't matter how long you live. Because what matters is what you're going to leave behind. Because it may be the impact you make on people, the impression that you make on people, a company that you start. But people do not remember people for what they didn't start. People do not remember people for the dreams that they had, but never actually started or went after. People remember people for what they had to overcome or what they left behind. My question to you is, what are you going to leave behind? When you pass away, what will your great-great-grandkids remember about you? I wonder what the people who you've come in contact with will remember about you. I'm just thinking, just thinking. I also wrote down as I was preparing for today that until you understand the value of time and its link to your life, you will allow you will always be undervalued. In fact, I wrote down another statement which said that undervaluation of your time leads to one overestimation of others' time. What the hell does that mean? Well, I discovered that when you understand that your time is valuable, one of the things that you don't do is allow people to steal your time. Because one of the things about time that I've discovered is that it is actually possible for people to steal your time. Whilst we can't control time, we can steal other people's time. Many of you will know you've stood with people or spent time with people and you thought, how and why in the world did I just spend an hour with that person? I've just literally wasted an hour. I've just lost an hour of my life. What the hell happened? I should not have been in that meeting. That meeting, they could have sent one email instead of me sitting in that stupid meeting for the last half an hour. What a waste of time. I discovered that it is possible for people to steal your time. And the reason why it is possible for people to steal your time is when you do not understand the value of your time. When you don't understand the value of your time, you will actually overestimate other people's time. You will believe that other people's time is more valuable than your time. It's interesting that one of the things that I wrote down is that people who have fulfilled their purpose welcome death. They do not evade it or try to prolong it. One of the things as I start closing this talk and start closing my argument and what I wanted to talk to you about in this message is that you want to start to consider that, and this was a shock to me actually, because I didn't even realize that this was a reality. But did you know that some people are happy to die? Did you know that some people get to the end of their life and they're like, if it's my time, it's my time? And my question was, what, why? Why would somebody be happy to die? Here's what I discovered. The reason is because they've done everything that they could have done. I challenge you in the next decade to ensure that you've got your life on track so that if you were to die, you can say, Cass, listen, I could have seen more countries. I could have been more, impacted more people, but I've done the best that I can do, man. Yeah, Cassim, I've touched people's lives. I've connected, I've loved, I've spoken, I've laughed, I've cried. Cass, I have lived my best life. I'm telling you, I could have done more, but I've done everything that I believe I was meant to actually do on this planet. That is what I wish for you. I wish for you to get to a point in your life where you can say, Cass, bring it. I'm done, mate. Like, there is nothing more, Cass, that I could have pushed. I could not have loved anymore. Yeah, I've had like 5 heartbreaks. I got married, got divorced, and I found the love of my life the second time. And we loved each other, and then he passed away, like because of cancer. But I tell you what, I loved Cass. I loved so deeply, it was unbelievable. Cass, let me tell you something. I was not the richest man, but let me tell you, I know that the people whose lives I've touched, they're going to remember that. They are going, when I die, and they're going to come to my funeral, and I know that they're not going to talk about how much money I earn. They're going to talk about the funny things that I did for them and how we fought this battle and how we started this company and it was really difficult and we had to go and get this sofa and try to use this as a couch and do this and do that. Kaz, we literally lived our best life. That is what I wish for you. And my point is that many of you who are listening to me, that is not the course that you're on at the moment. That is not. If we look at the trajectory of your life, you are going to end up like so many people who I've studied, which is that they end up arriving. They end up having everything. They have the money, they have success, they have the children, they have the marriage, they have the job, they have the financial security, they get to go out to the freaking Indian takeaway, they have the Chinese on a Tuesday, they got to go on 2 or 3 holidays a year. They've arrived, they have everything that most of us would consider to be success, and yet they're empty inside. The reason that they're empty inside is because they are unfulfilled. They feel empty. They do not feel full. Fulfilled, feel full, fulfilled. When you feel full, when you are fulfilled, it's because you've done all that you're meant to do. I challenge you in the next decade to really ensure that you've really honed in on your purpose, that you've really honed in on what it is that you're here to do. And that all starts with understanding you haven't got forever. So do not play with your life. Do not like play games around here. Because for all we know, you could be like Chadwick Boseman, and by age 40, you could pass away. Which gives you, if you're in your 20s at the moment, that might give you 15 years. And you might say, well, Cassim, that's not going to happen to me. Do you think that Chadwick Boseman thought that he was going to pass away at age 43? Or 43 or 47, whatever age it was? I don't know, 43. I don't think so. There are many, many, many people who are not here today that thought that they would be here today. And they took their time for granted. I want to ensure that you do not join those individuals and become one of the individuals who becomes a generational thief and end up enriching the graveyard. I want to ensure that before you die empty. That when the angels come for your carcass, when they come for your soul, when they come for everything that you have as a manifestation, that they're like, boy, this brother done good. Like there's nothing. God, there's nothing for us to take. Like this brother, has nothing. That is what I want to ensure. I don't want to make it, and this is why. Why do you think I'm doing this video? I'm doing this video because I want to ensure that you do not join at that group of individuals who enriches the graveyard. It's interesting. I was looking at some data and I was looking at some research recently that said that 95% of by the time we reach age 35, 95% of our beliefs, our attitudes, our behaviors, our perceptions, all of them are all set. That is it. When you reach age 35, basically who you are by age 35 is who you're going to be when you die. Even if you live to be 80 years of age, that person is who you're going to be. Earlier on, one of the things that I talked about is whilst change happens naturally, growth doesn't. There are many, many, many people. Listen, guys, I've said to you guys before that nobody is going to force you to fulfill your destiny. No one. The government only requires that you pay your taxes, that you pay your national insurance, that you don't commit a crime, apart from and also that you become a good citizen by having a job and stuff like that. Apart from that, the world doesn't really expect any more from you than that. Anything beyond that, fulfilling your purpose, living an exceptional life, achieving greatness, all of those things are going to be up to you. I wonder whether you're going to die empty. I wonder whether we will ever see who you truly are. Because, again, here's what I've come to realize. I've come to realize in my life that most people live two lives. We have the life that we know we can live, and we have the life that we think people expect us to live. I love something that I once heard somebody say. Somebody said that I am not who I think I am who I think that you think that I am. It's insane even for me to say that. So I am not who I am who I think that you think that I am. And that is the way in which most people are living their lives. Somebody once said that most men live lives of quiet desperation. It's true. Many people, we're never going to see them. Most people in their life, we're never truly going to see what they have to offer this generation. There are so many people who many of you know in your own lives who are gifted, who are talented, who are special, who are unique. If you went to the mirror and looked there, you would be one of them. You would see that individual. But yet we're never going to see them. So many people are secretly talented, secretly great at singing, secretly great with people, secretly great with money, secretly great at, with numbers. Yet we're never going to see that. Why? Because they don't understand the value of their time. When you understand the value of your time, all of a sudden, all of these wishy-washy peripheral things that most of us kind of take for granted, and we use as excuses, become irrelevant. Listen to me. I don't care if you don't like me anymore, because I understand that I could die anytime. God damn it. Do I really care that you don't like me? The answer is no. Do I really care that that you don't like the things that I'm wearing today? I don't care, right? And I believe that so many people in our lives, we allow other people to determine those truths for us, primarily because we don't understand the value of our time. And so to finish off, what I want to do, and I want to encourage you to do in your own life, is really take inventory of your life. Really realize that you're important. Really realize that you're significant through understanding the value and of the time that you have and how short that is. You have not got forever to be here. When you understand that, I believe you can do the most remarkable things. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that what I shared with you today has been useful. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Also, if there's something that you want me to speak about, send me a message and I will speak on that topic. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, Cassimotive, so that I can keep sending you more of this stuff so that you can become your highest, fullest expression of yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.